Buy or sell that Domas is getting dicked on these foul calls.
God, it honestly seems like it. I mean, for him to foul out 2 straight games, I don't know. I know he's not the best defender or anything, but I don't know. It just seems like they're giving him some ticky tack fouls, and it's just frustrating to see. I mean, like you can kind of see why some of them are fouls, but I don't know. I don't. They're just so soft to me. I feel like I don't know. It just seems like maybe I'm just a Kings fan and I'm biased, but I don't know. I feel like we're not getting some of those calls that they're calling against Sabonis. So why is he getting them? I don't know. What are your thoughts? I think he's getting boned.
I think
he's getting sub-boned.
I think that there are a lot of calls that have been just downright bad. I think the 6th foul against Miami was just ridiculous. But I also think that with kind of like Domas is your best paint defender right now. He puts himself in a good position. He's not a rim protector, and he's not particularly athletic. But he puts himself in decent enough position. His defensive rating's not terrible. I think it's 110.7 ahead of this Miami game. He's just out there all the time, and teams know. I mean, like I'm sure it says it in the scouting report on him, something about susceptible to fouls. That kind of was more of a problem, obviously, under Billy Donovan in OKC, but it's there. And there's also the fact that, well, who else is defending the paint? And well, now game after game, teams are figuring that out. They're like, oh, Domas fouled out. It's like that is definitely a point of emphasis for these opponents because they know how big he is. And for this Kings team, that is.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of a few bad calls. Like, for instance, the 2 calls, by contrast, the 2 calls that I think the last 2, I think it was the moving screen. And then I think the other one was a block because his foot was on the line. Like, it was a moving screen.
Mm-hmm.
His foot was on the line. It's like, okay, those are fair calls. Now, that still obviously is huge impact. Players get breaks all the time. They miss calls all the time. It does feel like Domas doesn't really get favorable calls to go his way. It's not like he gets breaks, I wouldn't say. I feel like that's a fair condemnation of the refs for sure. And then there's a few calls that are just absolutely ridiculous. But at the end of the day, I think it's a combination of bad officiating to kind of Domas's own traits, to the susceptibility Domas has without really much help. And, also the fact that teams are going to target it. So I think it's kind of like, was a 5-pronged thing. It's kind of complex, but I think it's fair to kind of be pissed at the refs. And honestly, overall, it's not just Domas. The Kings are not going to get calls. I mean, the Kings haven't been in the playoffs in 16 years. You hear former players talk about it all the time, that you don't win games. You don't get respect from the refs. That's stupid, but it's like, well.
But what about a 2-time All-Star?
And that's what I'm saying. And he doesn't get the favorable calls. I think that's a fair thing. So, like, I don't know if I necessarily buy it all the way. I wait for this to get a discount, and then I buy.
We'll see how it keeps going. It's still early on. I just see him, I don't know, just a couple drives I see, and it seems like he has his hands up, and, he maybe has his chest out a little and a little bumping, but it's basketball. It's going to be physical, especially getting into the paint. And it just feels like they're bailing him out and hurting our chances. And it's like, I don't know. Is that really a foul? Like, yeah, maybe it is by the like the book definition. But it just, I don't know.
It's definitely makes a huge difference that he never gets the benefit of the doubt.
It doesn't. And then you go on the other end and we don't get a call like that. And it just feels, it's just frustrating.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
So we'll see. I mean, it's also early still, and maybe stuff will change. But at this moment, I think he's not getting fair calls all the way, and that's why he's fouling out. Like, of course, it's not like he's just the best defender and he doesn't foul. Like, of course he fouls, but I don't think he should be fouling out of these games. I don't think he should be being in such high or foul trouble so early on.
Yeah,
because I think he's just getting a couple bad calls, like 2 bad calls, boom. Could be at 4 fouls instead of 2.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I also, just on an optimistic, level, you have to understand too that, like, damn, like Mike Brown really gets into his guys on the tape and in the film room when it comes to that stuff, and they'll work on it. I'm sure a week or 2 from now, like, he dropped 1 or 2 fouls, just the ones that he is like maybe really committing. Uh, make better use of his hands. Katie Christensen was a big when she played, so she was talking about it pretty, uh, uh, um, in depth. About there are some of these calls where maybe he's not in the best position, or he's not using his hands, putting his hands in the right position, or to keeping them too low, or whatever the deal is. And so it's like those are very correctable. So it's
Yeah.
like give it a few games, you might start to see him adjust that. So it can definitely get better. Not necessarily saying that because I don't know how they're going to fix the fact that he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. That's totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous, and it hurts them. That's no doubt.
Cutting out fouls one way or the other, it'll be helpful. Whether it's the ticky tack ones, or just cutting out the ones you said, where he is actually fouling, and if you can work on those, then the ticky tack ones won't feel so bad. So
Yeah,
we'll see how the season goes, but
I feel that.